Hey, welcome to Tiger Talk. I have with me a very special guest, Robin Leong. I could read you his IMDb page, but what I really want to communicate to you is that he's a movie star and a true martial arts master, the founder of Chi Life, and a children's book author, right? The author of Kung Fu Force and the Tower of Doom, Volume 2, Kung Fu Force and the Perilous BOBA Whirlpool. Thank you for joining me, Robin.
Well, we're very glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so once again, let me also start by saying Happy New Year. We're doing
Yes,
uh, Tiger Talk in honor of the Lunar New Year, Year of the Tiger.
Tiger.
And so I usually start these kind of conversations by asking folks such as yourself, like, what does that mean, the Year of the Tiger? What does that mean to you? And also, how would you describe that to someone who's heard it but doesn't quite understand what that means?
Well, the Year of the Tiger is very special to me personally because my firstborn was born in the Year of the Tiger, Lucas, and so this is his year, and he's turning 12 this year. And yeah, it's. I mean, every Chinese New Year has been special. Chinese New Year. A lot of people. Well, I was born and raised in Seattle, here in the U.S. And when I went over to Asia for the past 23 years, 25 years, people would always ask, do you celebrate Chinese New Year in America? And they probably thought that I didn't because I was, like what they call a American born Chinese. And I would tell them, actually, yeah, I know a lot about Chinese New Year because of my father. And ever since I was a young boy, I would always remember celebrating Chinese New Year at the Seattle Kung Fu Club, and we would have all these big celebrations, with the lions, the dragons, and I have a kung fu demonstration. And that's really how I got familiar with Chinese New Year. But growing up here, I didn't understand the significance how it is in Asia, because in Asia, it's like a month long celebration, and it's never celebrated like that here in the U.S. But within my family and my kung fu family, it was always prevalent and always around. And that's the one perception that a lot of people have about me, that people didn't realize. They thought I was a very Americanized, American born Chinese, but I was actually, like I said, born and raised in a kung fu family. And my father taught me the traditions of kung fu and the Chinese traditions and the holidays. And we would always celebrate, not just at the kung fu club, at home. My mom would make special Chinese New Year treats, and it was always a special time. And so it means a lot. And being back in the U.S., celebrating the Year of the Tiger is very special, because my firstborn was born in Singapore, and and then over in Singapore, they celebrate Chinese New Year, oh, like you've never seen before. So just beautiful celebrations, events, and it's just, and it's different right now, obviously, with the pandemic. Everything has been toned down, without having real celebrations with a lot of people together. But we can do things like this via Zoom, celebrating and sharing stories, sharing what it means to be celebrating Chinese New Year. And I think through your work and my work, that more people will be more educated and understanding of the importance of the celebrations, because it all relates to not just the Chinese culture, but also with martial arts, kung fu, and the philosophies that it all intertwined.
To hear you say Kung Fu Club and a Kung Fu family, I mean, it's such an amazing understatement considering your father is the legendary John Leong. And for those who don't know, would it be fair to say, colloquially, he's a contemporary of Bruce Lee and of that generation of martial arts legends?
Yes, I mean, and yeah, it's when you think back on it, here in Seattle, boy, what a time it was in the 50s and 60s, right? My father came to America in the 50s, and then set up the Seattle Kung Fu Club in the early 60s. Bruce Lee was teaching at the University of Washington. And what a time of, of a Kung Fu. I don't even know how to put it into words. It just, if you think about it from right now, how much energy and knowledge of Kung Fu martial arts that was happening just right in the center of Seattle during that time was amazing. A lot of people ask me about that. I say, like, unfortunately, I wasn't born in the 60s. I was in the 70s. But looking back on it, and when you think about it, it's just, it's just amazing. And there are some people who had trained with Bruce Lee who are still around and would share stories. And some people that have trained with both Bruce Lee and my father. When they share stories with me, the first thing they always tell me is every time I come into the International District in Chinatown, Seattle's Chinatown, I'll never forget the first time I met your father, because father has been at the Seattle Kung Fu Club since 1963, and he's still going strong, going there and training and being with his students. The heyday of the Kung Fu popularity obviously was in the late 60s, early 70s. Then the Bruce Lee movies was coming out, and then the Kung Fu, the TV series. And, it was just, my father would share stories with me about just every class would have like 80 to 100 people, and daily having like 50 people signing up. And just the power of the media just showed them how everybody was just going crazy over Kung Fu. With my father and Bruce Lee and Seattle, it's just what a fantastic collision of Kung Fu. Nobody knew what Kung Fu was. My dad always says that people thought it was something to eat, like fried rice or something like that. And now it's approaching, 55 years. It's just amazing. He is still teaching daily, and he's 85 this year. He's 5 this year. But amazingly, that's and I always say that he puts all of the younger generation to shame, because it's just that discipline and dedication. And I see it firsthand, and his students see it firsthand. It's just daily, he's training daily, running, working out, staying sharp, and such he always gives us such a simple philosophy that you just always have to be disciplined and consistent. When you have those two things, you will never go wrong. And also with the respect factor, you respect yourself, respect your body. Your body is your temple, so take care of it. And he's the perfect example. And it's not just talk, and he does it. And even at this age, and I try to tell him to try to kind of slow down a little bit. And he's listened, and because he used to run like 5 miles a day, now he's down to only 3. So
But I think a lot of people may not realize that Kung Fu doesn't just mean a fighting art. There's a whole other layer to it, which has to do with art beyond fisticuffs.
Of course, it's common for people to always feel any martial arts physicality. But once they realize and understand that the mental aspect of it all and the philosophical aspect of it all, and they'll get the whole spectrum, the whole picture, and becomes more satisfying and gratifying.
Oh, yes. And then it delves into other concepts like the relationship Kung Fu has to traditional calligraphy. There are different expressions of a similar view.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because everything is related. And I mean, just that discipline and patience, it's all related to the martial arts teaching, being patient, discipline, having good flow. I always love the word flow. Flow is a key. I mean, I need everything flowing. And when you have everything flowing, just like the yin and yang, when everything is flowing, then your body is flowing, your life is flowing. You can never remain stagnant. So flow is, I love that word.
I love that some of these concepts are taking root in a more localized thought. And
I do see like a traditional Kung Fu renaissance. And I'm not sure about yourself, but I really, because there was a period of time in the 90s, early, late 90s and into the 2000s that, it was waning a little bit, and then MMA came about. But there's been a renaissance, and even during this pandemic, I mean, A lot of people are coming to learn kung fu, and it's great to see, because especially with all these other like exciting, when I say exciting, arts like MMA out there, which is just, it's very exciting to watch. It is. But when they realize that there's a historical and philosophical aspect to the training, then it goes deeper and deeper. And you mentioned that how about deep teachings is very important. And also, and if you go even deeper, and I'm not sure if anybody is familiar or knows about this, but my father also is a Chinese herbal doctor. So it wasn't just punching, kicking, stances. It went a lot deeper than that. And that's what I hope to continue, not just, like I said, just the teachings, but also the other aspects that go along with it. So people can get the whole spectrum of what it is to know Hung Gar Kung Fu or traditional Kung Fu.
And this is what this is how you're formulating Chi Life is kind of formulated around this philosophy, I would say, showing that there's a holistic approach.
Absolutely. And I wanted to really directing at children, because me growing up, learning Hung Gar, it's a little bit difficult because, and there's so many stories that I've told over the years, but I started when I was 4 years old, not by my choice, obviously. But when you're training, it was with everybody, with the adults and everybody, and I was probably one, along with my sisters, were the only kids there. So that's why how Chi Life Studio was born, because I really wanted to focus on the children, because as a child, going through the motions with the adults, it can be difficult. So I wanted to make the training a little bit shorter, because in Hung Gar, at my father's school, we were training 2 hours a training session for, I mean, back in the 70s, okay, 2 hours, I mean, it's a long time, but in this day and age, that would seem like an eternity for kids. When I started, actually, we're celebrating our 20th year this year.
Congratulations.
I didn't realize it until I got a call. I said, oh yeah, we started in 2002. At that time, then there was a PlayStation that was just coming out. There was always Nintendo. So I started to realize that kids were losing their focus. A lot of parents were coming to me, and this is the time when I did the challenge, and it was just on air in Singapore. And I was getting requests because the challenge was we went to Shaolin. It was a kung fu drama. It was fantastic, fantastic experience. And then we had a lot of families and moms and dads who would call the TV station and ask if I could teach their kids, because they're very inspired watching the television series. So and then when I finally met some of the children, we had a gathering, and we had a meet and greet, and I met some of the kids, and I started to realize that a lot of the kids, and then what the feedback from parents is that they don't concentrate enough in school, and they only like to play video games. And well, it's a kid thing. I mean, I like to play it as a kid, but we just had those little small Pac-Mans, it's not like now, right? I made it a point to make the training shorter, and more direct, and I added a little bit of a fun element to it, so they realize that yes, you are learning traditional kung fu, but you can also have a little bit of fun at the same time. That's how that idea was born for Chi Life Studio, and I really wanted to just have it more kid-centric, and those that wanted to just learn kung fu recreationally, we have that, and we also have the other side where those that want to compete and take it to another level. Everybody is different, and I always stress this to all my students and their parents. I would say confidence is key. I want to instill confidence in your children and even your teenagers, because confidence is just what's gonna bring your child to the next level. It doesn't have to be in kung fu or martial arts, but that confidence is gonna take them to another level in academics, their personal relationships. So who am I to reject any students. I want to inspire as many students and just understand that everybody is different and everybody's thinking is different. But the main thing is when you come into the school and you walk and you've trained in the school and you walk out of the school more confident. And that confidence is just so key in everything. So I really drill that into the kids. Confidence, but confidence comes with practice. So you must practice. You must practice. So
I think that segues beautifully into your work with your children's picture books, which
yeah.
are, first of all, they are gorgeous to look at.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let me just compliment your artist, Eric Wong, in that great work. It strikes me like those books are these same lessons, just once again at another level for the young reader. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. And the philosophies that you're seeing in the book is exactly what I train at my studio. And it's just an extension of our teachings at the studio. I was inspired to have this series because there were parents that were asking, and I've always had the idea of I always wanted to do a children's book series, and especially after my boys were born, because Lucas was born in 2010 and Brady, my youngest, was born in 2015. As a father, I always want to teach my kids new things and teach them how to do things, but let them find their own way. And they were a big part of the process because I wanted them to give me feedback. They will give honest answers and honest feedback. And they've given me some seriously honest feedback a number of times already. But it was great to have that process because they got to see how the whole process went through. There's a whole deeper way to accomplish that. And, there's many layers to it. And it was just by chance that the publisher, Epigram, we ended up talking one day and they loved the idea of having a children's book. And they asked when I could start on it. And I started on it right away. They go through a lot of trials and tribulations about the training. This is the school. And if you notice, the school Chinese character is Chi. That's for Chi Life Studio.
Awesome.
But they go through a lot of well, I'll if you don't mind if I talk about the first book.
I'm so excited to hear about it. So please do.
Great. Well, it's about never giving up. And Brady, the Bengal cat, because during training, since he is a cat, he got a little bit lazy because he thought he was a cat. He didn't have to do his cat stances and things like that. But he realized that when he really needed it to save the world, or save the building from collapsing and saving the person that was hanging by his fingertips, that you always have to be prepared and work hard and never give up. So what happens is that he realized his mistake and he realized he has to train harder and work harder. But it's okay to make mistakes. Okay? But you try your best not to make the same mistake again. And so the inspiration, as you see it, there's two quotes from Confucius in each book. And the last quote is very, very important. And I added the kids speak because Confucius can be a little bit difficult for kids to understand. So the last quote is, "A superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions." Okay, so, and I always stress that to my kids, especially when they play sports. You just do what you need to do. You don't trash talk. You don't boast about yourself. You do your thing, and that's it. You go about your business. And I say when kids speak, and that's kind of a translation of obviously the Confucius saying is, the loudest person in the room is usually the weakest. Always be humble and express yourself fully by doing more and talking less. So these are teachings that I teach to not only my kids, but my students as well, because you have to be humble. You cannot, no matter how good you get at something, you have to have that mental discipline and acumen to know that you don't need to show off. Okay. If you're good, people will know you're good. You don't need to say that you're good. So then kids start to realize, because when I see a lot of things, like especially in the NBA and in football, it's completely different now. When in NBA, when they make a shot, it's like, oh, that's me. Oh, I don't like that at all. And I see that because I coach my kids' basketball team, and I see them go like that. Oh, you're on the bench now. So I don't tolerate that, because it's just a bad example. It's okay to celebrate. It's okay, but back in the day when I remember watching basketball, there's never any like chest thumping and it's me. And I think this generation is exposed to that because it is a me generation with social media.
Mhm.
I don't blame them, because that's what they see. But I do my best to try to rein them in, to stay grounded, be humble. And that's why with the kids book, it's rare to see that in a kids book, because a lot of the popular kids books are, it's very funny, but kind of toilet humor. But I wanted to add the traditional teaching in the book where kids can understand too. So this is the second one. Sorry. No, so I'll just lead right into the second one.
Yeah.
The second book is really close to my heart because it's from my own personal experience, me growing up. Because growing up, I was always I didn't have a growth spurt until I was in high school. So I was always the smallest kid in the class, and I was the only Asian kid in the class. Bullying going on at a young age because of my size. And I remember I would get picked last, and they would say, "Oh, he's not considered one, he's half." And I took that personally. I said, like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that, because I knew what I could do. I knew I was fast. I wasn't as big as the other kids, but I had heart. I had desire. So that's what this was inspired by my actual experience in school. I remember when I was a kid, they would used to call me shrimp. I said, I like eating shrimp. So I didn't realize that what they meant was really small. So it didn't cross my mind at that time. Only a little bit when they said I was just considered half. Sifu Song tells them, you may not be big in stature, Lucas, but be brave and have the courage to prove your worth to your peers. So he went out and did his thing. And how the story goes is that it goes deeper now. The bullies in the school that were making fun of him end up drowning in a bubble tea. It burst in the canteen, and then the bulldogs, they can't really swim very well. They were getting swept into the big whirlpool. Lucas the lizard, even though they were mean to him, saved the day, saved them. And it goes deeper, because it shows that in the last part of it says, those who cannot forgive others break the bridge over which they themselves must pass. So the kids speak for that is, we should never hold grudges. We live and learn and help others to see the light. So it wasn't like, even though someone may be mean to you, you always have to do the right thing. So the main thing with this book, two things, is that number one, you are good enough. No matter who you are, what size you are, boy, girl, I've been stressing to everybody who's read the book and wants to read the book that you are good enough. Number two, don't hold grudges and always do the right thing. When I mean to always do the right thing, someone in need, you help them. And that's part of the Kung Fu philosophy as well. And you always help those in need. Okay? You always help the weak. Okay, so so that's book two. So that's it's very close to my heart. So I hope that was a little small lesson in Kung Fu philosophy.
Oh, I think it was great. I mean, I really am a big fan of your decision to do the Kids Speak translation, because that's just, it's so easy to just put some, to have something nice and a Zen koan. There's so many beautiful Zen koans out there, right? And there's space for that mystery, to leave something a little bit mysterious and for interpretation, but for the sake of the readers that you're trying to reach, right, they need that clarity because they're young, and so that willingness to take that step just means so much. And
yeah, I hope so. And then the feedback has been that it's going over very well, not just with kids but also parents. And it's very special when I hear people and they would message me or call me and say that my kids are very inspired by the book. So I was very, very happy to hear feedback.
oh, that's great. And I mean, I definitely like there's the part of me that loves to go into that deeper stuff, right? And would love to explore the choice to pursue Confucianist theory versus Taoist theory. And yet for so many, that distinction, there's probably not even a distinction. And in reality, there's so much crossover, right? That
Of
that
course.
that there's only a point midway through that you think that there's a true difference, right? But it's all, what is it? To quote the Tao badly, right? It's all part of the Tao. But
Yeah. And everybody who has read Confucius and the Analects, um, their interpretation, obviously, it's very personal. I mean, and then they can interpret it however they want to interpret it. But the main thing is you have to take the words and go deep within yourself. It's nothing on the surface. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and look deep down inside. And that's when you're going to really get the true meaning of all of the Confucius Analects, and also just the true meaning of yourself. So once you find that within yourself, you will be at peace, and you can make decisions. You can make good decisions, and yeah, just always be at peace.
oh yeah, I mean, it just calls to mind one of those great Confucianist scholars, Master Yoda, when he tells Luke Skywalker to go into that cave, and Luke asks, "What will I find in that cave?" And he says, "Only what you bring with you."
Mhm.
Although he said it with the verbs switched around, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
But I'm being facetious, but I think that's a great example to me of how some of those deeper teachings, even as far back as, Empire Strikes Back, they were making their way out into the world. And then here we are now,
Mhm.
years later, where those teachings are just so much more readily available because they're being presented without the aliens and without, those whistles and bells. They're coming more closer to the root
And it's
source.
amazing is that it's still so relevant today. His teachings, his philosophy, it's just amazing, especially during this last couple of years. It's just that it's so relevant, and it's just timeless. And I hope people can read more on Confucius, and just learn from it, and just take a little bit every day, and make yourself and those around you better.
I agree. It's a mutual hope to get all of these thoughts out
Yes.
there further. They all bear, for their simplicity, right? They all bear so much scrutiny, and they really deserve to be looked at closely because you can gain so much from any of these lessons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Robin, this has been a true pleasure and an honor. While the rest of us are tweeting and posting stories on Instagram, you're doing good work in the real world.
Well, I mean, I think everybody is doing great work. You too. I mean, I'm looking forward to this to your project, and the best of luck on the Kickstarter campaign. And I'm definitely going to support that, and I encourage everyone to support it.
Excellent. Well, thank you. So let me wish you a gongchi fatsai, and
Hey, Fat Choi.
thanks again for taking the time out to chat and to get philosophical and to share some origin stories. This is
Well, it was great. It's great talking to you. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I wish everybody a happy Year of the Tiger.
yes, yes, indeed.